Good morning. It is time for your meditation. Welcome to Thursday morning. Our teacher for this week is Jack Cornfield. On Monday I mentioned a little bit of Jack Cornfield's history. When he was much younger, basically just out of school as an adult, trying to figure out what to do. He traveled, I can't remember where he started even. I traveled to the east and in, I can't remember if it was Thailand, then called Burma. He decided to stick around for a while and become a monk. Became a Buddhist monk. For a couple of years, that's what he did. And then when he traveled back to the US, he became one of the first Westerners to introduce Buddhist kind of mindfulness meditation to the USA. I really love his work. It's always worth doing a search for Jack Cornfield. There's a bunch of books, just an awesome volume of work. Interviews too, if you go to YouTube, there's so many interviews. I think one of his best interviews might be speaking to Tim Ferriss, but go and have a listen to them. What an awesome human being. I love listening to him. Good morning, Sunmari. Good morning, Grania. Good morning, Danae. It's awesome seeing you here. Let's get right into Jack Cornfield's message today. It really is a very simple one. The first thought from Jack Cornfield says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. If your compassion does not include you, then your compassion is not complete yet. Today's meditation is an exploration of self, with the intent to see if we could find compassion even for the parts that we don't like so much. The next thought from Jack Cornfield says, the emotional wisdom of the heart is simple. When we accept our human feelings, a remarkable transformation occurs. Tenderness and wisdom arise naturally and spontaneously. I want you to really get the truth of that. When we accept our human feelings, a remarkable transformation occurs. Tenderness and wisdom arise naturally and spontaneously, and it only takes us to accept the feelings that are there. Where we once sought strength over others, now our strength becomes our own. Where we once sought to defend ourselves, we laugh. Pat, a very good morning. Anthony, good morning. Awesome having you here. Most of us were taught that we are only acceptable when we display the best aspects of ourselves, that the moment we struggle or feel a bit low, we become unacceptable. And that is at the core of why we so often struggle to just simply have acceptance for our normal human feelings. We were shown very clearly that when we display those feelings, when we feel those feelings, we are not acceptable. Jack Cornfield says, ours is a society of denial that conditions us to protect ourselves from any direct difficulty and discomfort. We expend enormous energy denying our insecurity, fighting pain, death, and loss, and hiding from the basic truths of the natural world and of our own nature. One of the basic truths of human nature is that some days we'll feel heavy and some days we'll feel light. Some days we feel the darkness and other days we feel like light ourselves. How do we become better at navigating all of this while always moving closer to being able to include ourselves within our circle of compassion? Last thought from Jack Cornfield says, as we willingly enter each place of fear, he says this is how we do it. As we willingly enter each place of fear, each place of deficiency and insecurity in ourselves, we will discover that its walls are made of untruths, of old images of ourselves, of ancient fears, and of false ideas of what is pure and what is not. Charlene, good morning. Vivian, good morning. So good to see you. Hello. Not turning away from what scares us anymore, This is how we do this. No more numbing out, no more running away, but facing and accepting our own pretty as well as ugly, until we can look upon ourselves with kind eyes, appreciating just how hard this human has been trying. And it tends to be, when we get there, it's all beautiful. We don't see ugly anymore once we've gotten to a place where we can accept, embrace, and hold everything that created who we are. Linda, good morning. Awesome seeing you. Right, if you are ready, we are diving into a sense of self, exploring what is there, calling our inner children to come and sit with us. Let's have a talk. Let's have a chat. You can close your eyes. We'll start the first few big breaths together. Take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. A deep inhale and let it go. Deep breath in and out. One more big breath in and let it all flow away. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose gets drawn all the way deep down into your belly. And as you fill up your belly with air, also raise yourself up. As you breathe in, stretch out your spine, lift the top of your head toward the ceiling. And once you've reached your full height, let all of it go. As you exhale, soften. As you breathe out, soften your spine, slump down your shoulders, and drop your head. Continue your own full body breathing. While we have a quick conversation about creating a space for experiencing all the parts of ourselves. If I were to ask you a simple question like, what would you like for lunch? There are moments in which you could quite possibly answer something like, a part of me wants a burger, another part of me wants pizza, I'm not sure. A part of me wants this, another part of me wants that. This is part of the architecture of being a human. We have different aspects of ourselves that feel different things. sometimes completely opposite things. Like a part of me says, ooh, a burger would be nice. But there is another part of me that feels completely opposite. It feels, no, actually I like pizza, but I'm like caught between the two. These opposite parts, or just different parts, extend themselves to everything we feel. Can you feel sad and also really happy at the same time? It is indeed quite possible. Let's call these our inner children. We are inviting them closer for a conversation. The point of the conversation is that we'd like to understand. We'd like to grow our level of understanding of these aspects of ourselves. So invite these inner children closer. The image in my mind always looks a little bit like the teacher, the grade 1 teacher sitting on the carpet calling the kids for story time. Come and sit with me, come and sit around me. Let's have a chat. The 3 inner children we are inviting today, and please remember that you are welcome to choose your own examples. I'm choosing something generic that probably we all have little bits of, but you are welcome to work with what is most prevalent within you. These 3 inner children we are using as an example today are guilt, a part of you that sometimes feels guilty. Perhaps you know or you don't know why. And then shame, a part of us that sometimes feels ashamed. And then the 3rd inner child is fear, the part of us that sometimes feels scared. Invite these 3 inner children to come and sit with you. Sometimes this comes with ease. This part of you sits down and breathes along with us, and sometimes this comes with resistance. That part that speaks in that voice, feeling ashamed, perhaps doesn't really want to be seen. Make this as easy for yourself as you can. Don't push anything. We're not going to any difficult places, really. We're keeping it very simple. The point, as I've said, is we really only want to listen. And we want to form a better understanding. So we'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together and be playful with this as well. As much as it is serious, let's approach it in a playful way. Ask these inner children if they'd like to sit and breathe along with you. Take a deep breath in. And as you release, drop your head all the way forward and roll out your neck muscles, going forward and to the left and forward and to the right. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders forward in big, slow circles. See if these inner children will stretch out along with us. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders backwards in big circles, nice and slow. Take a deep breath in. And as you release, focus on your spine. You can lean your upper body over to the left and also lean your upper body over to the right. One more big breath in. And as you release, you can stretch or move or adjust any part of your body that still needs a bit of help settling down. Having softened our bodies into a state of presence, or at least as much as we are able to do that right now, we can now turn our attention inwards and dive deep inside for the next part of our journey. With every next inhale, we'll hold our breath for a few short moments, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. With your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, I want you to hold your breath. And we'll do that together for a few breaths. If you don't have the time to sit for the whole meditation with us, then this is a good place to stop. But if you are here for the whole journey, then let's do these next few breath holds together. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a really long, really slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel into your body. Feel how softness slips in and settles in every part of your body. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, follow the downwards flow through your body. Feel your shoulders slowly falling. Feel your body slowly softening. And feel how you are slowly slipping deeper into you. One more big breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself melting. Feel your whole body dissolving. Feel how you are slipping into a deeper level of surrender with every slow exhale. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose is an invitation. It invites you to turn inwards and follow this journey. So as you breathe in, become aware of the air flowing in through your nostrils. Feel the air touch the back of your throat. Stay with your breath as it flows in through your lungs. And as you fill up the balloon inside your belly, feel yourself slip all the way in. Hold your breath. But hold it only for as long as it feels easy, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. With your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, I'm reminding you that we are sitting with these inner children. Take a moment to acknowledge them. Take a moment to say hello. Again, let them know we are here to listen. We want to understand. Take your next big breath. Our exercise today asks each of these three inner children to speak. And we're bringing ourselves to a place where we just listen, where we remind ourselves of the moments when that part of us feels triggered, how we think in those moments, how we feel in those moments, how we speak in those moments. What is helpful is when we ask each of these inner children to speak, to try and take a step back so that you can get a good view of who is speaking. I want you to try and see if, with your brain, with your mind, with your imagination, if you can form a picture of this part of you speaking. Now, it's not super important that you find the picture. But what your brain does when you take a step back and you try to see is create the same connections whether you actually see a picture or not. There's no way that you can do this wrong. So we turn our attention first to guilt. The part of us that sometimes feels guilty. And we're asking this inner child to speak. We're saying, please remind us in those moments where we feel guilty. What is it that we think then? How does this part speak? How do we feel in those moments that we feel guilty? What might this be about? As you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, we're asking guilt to speak. Take your next big breath. Now we're going to ask guilt a question, and sometimes it's so quick, easy, and simple getting an answer from this part of ourselves. We ask a question and very often the answer is right there. But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes we ask the question and it's like we don't know what to make of what's here. I want you to know that that's okay. You're creating a space within you that has acceptance for having a conversation with this part of you. That's what's important. So as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, I want you to turn to this part of you, guilt. And ask this part of you, use the words, guilt, in those moments where you feel so guilty. What is it that you're afraid is going to happen? In those moments where you feel racked by guilt, what is it that you're afraid will happen because of this? Take your next big breath. Take a moment to thank guilt for being present, showing up, being seen, being heard. We'll shift our attention now to the part of us that sometimes feels shame, sometimes feels ashamed. And with your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, we're asking this part of us to speak. Remind us, what are the thoughts that I think when I feel so ashamed? What are the physical sensations I feel in my body when I'm overcome with shame? So as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, we're letting shame know we really are here to listen. Take your next big breath. And then turning towards shame, and as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, speak to shame and ask shame this question. I'll repeat again, sometimes this part of us has the answer ready instantly. And sometimes we feel uncertain, not sure what to do with this. I promise asking the question and being open is great. Whatever you receive is not so important, but it informs understanding. So with your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, use these words. Speak to shame. Say, shame, in those moments where you feel so incredibly ashamed. What is it that you'd want? What is it that you would want for me in those moments? And take your next big breath. Take a moment to thank shame for being present, for being seen, being heard, and being held. We then turn our attention towards fear, the part of us that sometimes feels scared. And as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, we're asking fear to speak. We are here to listen, to be reminded of how it feels in our body when we're so scared. What are the thoughts that we think when we feel so scared? What is on repeat in our mind when we feel so scared? We're asking fear to speak. Take your next big breath. And then we'll turn towards fear as well and ask it a question. As the story goes, sometimes this part of us answers clearly, a clear answer to the question. And at other times, not so clear, and please know that is okay. Turn towards fear. Say these words, say, fear. In those moments where you feel so scared, what is your deep desire for me? What is your deep desire for us? Take your next big breath. Take a moment to thank fear for being seen, for being heard and held. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together, slipping out of the breath-holding space and into the next. And we're asking these inner children to take these breaths along with us. Have them be exactly where they'd like to be. Sometimes sitting tightly next to you. Perhaps on your lap being held by you. Or however this naturally pops into your mind. Arrange them where they want to be and ask them to take these breaths with us. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a long, slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel how softness slips in and settles in every fiber of your being. One more big breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself slip all the way through. There is no more attention on your breathing. You can sit all the way back, or perhaps even lie all the way back down and feel yourself just floating. Everything we feel is trying to in some way be helpful. Even the parts of us that perhaps in the past we really disliked and tried to push away is in some way only trying to be helpful. One way to understand this, one way to look at this is that so many of these things we feel, these big emotions we feel, create coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are simply ways of trying to cope, ways of trying to be okay. For the most part, any and all of our coping mechanisms are trying to meet an unmet need. A need most likely from childhood that was not met. And often these parts of us are still trying to meet that old need. When we get better at being comfortable to feel these big emotions, feel them to the point that we can ask these questions, and gain some understanding of how this big emotion is trying to move me towards something that has been unmet in the past. I'll read to you Jack Cornfield's message to us again. A different way, different words for the same thing. First, he says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And related to today's meditation, we could say, if your compassion does not include the guilt you perhaps sometimes feel, if you don't have compassion for the shame you perhaps sometimes feel, if you don't have compassion for the fear that comes up in you, then your compassion is not complete. He says the emotional wisdom of the heart is simple. When we accept these human feelings, when we have simple acceptance for these things we feel, a remarkable transformation occurs. Tenderness and wisdom arise naturally and spontaneously. Where we once sought strength over others, now our strength simply becomes our own. Where we once sought to defend ourselves, we can now laugh. He says ours is a society of denial that conditions us to protect ourselves from any direct difficulty and discomfort. We have learned to be uncomfortable with these things. We expend enormous energy denying our insecurity, fighting pain, death, and loss, and hiding from the basic truths of the natural world and of our own nature. And this is how he suggests we do better at this. He says, as we willingly enter each place of fear, each place of deficiency and insecurity in ourselves, we will discover that its walls are made of untruths, of old images of ourselves, of ancient fears, of false ideas of what is pure and what is not. Thank you for being able to create a space where these different aspects of you can be seen, felt, held, heard. Because when you do that, just as Jack suggests, a remarkable transformation occurs. Your own tenderness and wisdom arises naturally and spontaneously. And the more often we do this, the better we get at this. Our own wisdom becomes the natural place we live. We have the last 5 breaths of gratitude to do together. With every exhale, I'll say my thank you, and I invite you to say yours. Let's take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to create a space, a really easy space, for each part of me to be seen and heard and held. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning slowly over time how easy it can be to even hold really big emotions. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for understanding that even when we've done a lot of good work and this has become easier, sometimes in a moment, suddenly an emotion is so big that it doesn't feel easy anymore. And having acceptance for that too. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to love every part of this human experience. The moments when it feels like it's been getting better and really easy, but also having acceptance for the moments where suddenly it feels so hard. One more big breath in. Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you for the work you do to create a space for your inner children. I want to always remind you, especially after a meditation like this one, that it is possible, that sometimes this triggers something that feels big, feels too hard to integrate or deal with. My reminder is that if something comes up for you that feels too big to hold, please reach out to me. This is what I do. And sometimes just having someone hear that can help. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Danae. Thank you, Sunmary. Thank you, Anthony. I love all your comments. Both Sunmary and Anthony mention pizza in their comments. Have a beautiful day. And I'll see you here soon. Ciao, ciao.